Hi everyone, I'm MaryAnn. I'm a voice coach and visual artist from Singapore, currently in Singapore, and welcome to another installment of my weekly vlog series, Find Your Voice. So this is where I share whatever I am learning as a singer, as a voice coach, as a singing instructor, as someone who is really all about expression and not just expressing myself in the most authentic way possible, but also helping other people be able to express themselves in as true and as authentic a way as they can get to and they can connect to about themselves. And ultimately, I believe that this whole journey is really about finding your capital V voice, which is whatever it is that you are called to express and called to create and called to live in this life, like your dreams, your passion, what you feel is your purpose. All of these things are related to what I believe is this masterpiece that we are trying to create over the course of our entire lifetime, such that when you look back over the many years of your life, you can see whatever it is that this masterpiece that you have been creating all this time. And that, I believe, is your capital V voice. If, of course, that's what you want and that's the life that you have been living, pursuing this thing that really matters to you. There's no right or wrong way to live, but if this is something that really matters to you, if you want to live a life that is meaningful and purposeful for yourself, then finding your capital V voice is a very important part of that journey. So what does this have to do with your actual physical voice? Well, our voice is a natural ability that we're born with. It's basically an integral part of who we are. Ever since we were babies, we had the free use of our voice, and it was the primary way that we could communicate and, well, attempt to communicate through crying and babbling and whatnot and screaming with our primary caregivers so that they can help us get whatever it is that we need, because we were helpless and we basically depended on them to ensure that we survive. So our voice is really intricately tied to who we are. It is an essential part of who we are. It's a natural part of who we are. So naturally, when we work on the barriers to our vocal and verbal expression, we're also working on the barriers towards the way we express ourselves in all other areas of our lives, which also includes how you are going about pursuing the goals that matter to you, fulfilling your dreams, going after whatever it is that brings you a lot of joy and meaning and purpose in your life. All of these things are related to the way we express ourselves with our voice as well. So if you have any questions about this, feel free to ask them in the comments, or you can also directly message me through any one of my links which you see in the write-ups attached to these videos. So coming back again to how our voice is a very integral part of who we are, it also then means that the way we were brought up in terms of the use of our voice and in terms of how conducive an environment you are brought up in would also play a part in your development in terms of your expression, and also in terms of how you go about pursuing your dreams and what really matters to you. And what I've learned as a voice coach is that there is really no one-size-fits-all approach when it comes to working on your voice. Like if you're interested in taking up singing lessons or speech lessons or voice coaching, and I know there are all kinds of teachers out there who would brand themselves in different ways, it's really important to work with a teacher who understands that every single person's voice is unique and that they're not just teaching you a one-size-fits-all approach that they think would get you results. I mean, to some extent, all these one-size-fits-all approach would get you some results, because most vocal exercises that you do out there, they do target specific areas of your voice, and by doing those exercises you will hear an improvement, but it doesn't mean that it's working on your voice holistically. It doesn't take into account your personal history as a person and how your voice and expression has developed over the years. And I give you an example today of one of my clients who is Singaporean, and she is younger than me, so she definitely grew up in a time in Singapore where the education system was taught primarily in English, and we have to do like a second language, what we call a mother tongue language. So Singapore has 4 national languages, English being one of them, and then there's 3 other languages which, depending on your ethnic background, you gotta pick. Well, you don't really have a choice. You have to learn one of those 3 as your second language. So with this client, I just naturally kind of assumed that because she's younger than me, she's Singaporean, she grew up in Singapore, that English would be It may not be her first language, but it would at the very least be something that she would already be able to speak ever since she was like at least, you know, kindergarten age, like 4 or 5 years old. I knew a little bit about her background in terms of her musical background because she grew up learning Indian classical music because her mom didn't want her to lose touch with her roots of her Indian heritage. And so at home, speaking to her family, she could only speak Tamil. And this is the language she grew up with. And this reasoning came about also because her mom thought that, well, you know, by the time she goes to kindergarten, she would learn to speak English anyway. So Tamil is her first language, plus she learned Indian classical singing for many, many, many years. And so that's when I realized that a 4-year-old who goes into kindergarten, an English-speaking kindergarten, where most of the other kids probably already could speak some English, even if they were to sing some nursery rhymes in English, she probably wouldn't sing along because she would already be behind compared to her English-speaking peers. And plus, you know, add in the fact that she also grew up singing Indian classical music and listening to Indian music in her house because it was like a no English zone for many years. That would also affect the way she perceives Western music. And learning that at a later stage in her life would actually present a huge learning curve, which because of my assumption that, you know, she grew up in Singapore, she speaks English fine, and plus she was in a choir when she was in high school, singing like English pop songs, I just figured that, you know, she wouldn't have any difficulty learning English songs. So that really solved a huge mystery for me because for the longest time I was trying to figure out and understand why her melodic memory in terms of remembering the melody of English songs wasn't as strong as it was supposed to be, considering that other things in her technical foundation were more or less there. And then we had that conversation and I was like, oh, okay, that's why. Yeah, so what I'm saying is that, you know, every single person's background is really unique to them. And it is a combination of so many factors, like your linguistic background, like what is the language you speak at home, what kind of music you're exposed to in your home environment, if any at all. Also, you know, how encouraging your family is when it comes to expression. And you know, the kind of environment that you grew up with, like even if you go to nursery or go to kindergarten, do they also encourage music and singing as part of their education program over there? So there's so many different factors that come into play here, and it's really not as straightforward as here, do this vocal exercise and you'll see an improvement in your voice. I mean, yes, you will, but it will only take you so far, because having a clear understanding as a voice coach, having a clear understanding of a person's personal history in terms of their linguistic and expression and musical development does play a part in how they would perceive and learn and understand singing and music and vocal expression as an adult in their later years. So whoever it is that you're choosing and considering as your voice coach, if they do not take the time to ask you about your personal history, your musical background, your linguistic background, you know, maybe you might want to consider looking for someone else who would actually ask you those things, because those are really important. And I think that, you know, group classes are a great way to work on your dealing with like fear and anxiety around performing in front of other people, but they may not always be the best way to go about working on developing your voice, again depending on who the teacher is. So if the teacher is someone who has like a background in coaching and can somehow, you know, accommodate for everybody's unique personal histories and give the best exercises, then that's fine. But if they're just like teaching a syllabus, like if they're part of a music school and there's a certain fixed syllabus that they're just taught to follow, then most likely they would probably not be the best option for everyone. So it's really important to choose the right kind of coach for you, someone who does take into consideration your history and your background. And of course, most important of all, you want to choose someone who you feel 100% comfortable working with, because this journey of working on our voice, especially when you go into your, you know, talking about your history and your development, talking about your fears around performance and what stops you from expressing yourself, it can get quite vulnerable. And so yeah, pick someone that you feel comfortable working with, that you feel that is encouraging in the way that you need them to be, and yeah, if you have any questions, do ask them in the comments. Do chat with me if you're interested in taking up voice coaching. Even if you don't want to work with me in the long run, that's totally fine too. I'm still happy, more than happy to chat with you and discover more about, help you discover more about what your vocal needs are, so I can also best recommend you something, whether it's with me or, you know, to find another teacher or something. Yep. So if you have enjoyed today's video, subscribe to my channel on YouTube, and I will see you next week.